Hey everyone. Today we're gonna be continuing what I've been doing. I realized my mistake. The fact that I haven't copied over the draft. You excuse me. I recently picked up 6 and one after 6. So copy them over. I made some edits. Well, it doesn't really matter because they're edits from one previous version to another version. So the fact that the previous version exists isn't really relevant. Relevant to me, not relevant to thing. I had 2 chapters lined up. We're gonna see how that goes. Mostly just my chapters seemed a bit short. What I went ahead and did is tried to extend them. Anyways. Southbound. Beatrice found him at the gate where the others had gathered, a small cloth bundle in her hands that she pressed against his chest without asking the barracks. Oh, I cannot read right now, dang. A small cloth bundle in her hands that she pressed against his chest without asking whether he wanted it. Bandages. Clean ones. And enough of them, which is more than I can say for whatever the barracks stocked you with. I have my own. You have the old ones you've been meaning to replace since spring. He said it without any real scolding in it. Only the tired fondness of someone who had this exact conversation more than once and expected to have it again. Humor me. It costs me nothing to carry a little more comfort than what you think you'll need. He tucked the bundle, because there wasn't much use fighting her for it. And because some small part of him was grateful for the fussing, even when he wouldn't say so. You'll be careful, she said. Not quite a question. As careful as the work allows. That's not the same thing as careful, but I'll take it. It's the most honest answer you're likely to get. He reached up and straightened his collar, an unnecessary, entirely unasked for gesture, the kind he made towards everyone she cared about, whether they wanted the touch or not. If you cross paths with Simon's wagons on the road, tell him to come home before the frost. Tell him, tell him it came from me, not you. He'll actually listen if he thinks I said it. I'll pass it along. See that you do. She held his gaze a moment longer, warm and unhurried, before letting him go. And Sebastian, whatever you find down there, you don't have to carry it alone just because you're good at pretending you can. He didn't have a ready answer for that. She didn't seem to expect one. Already turning back towards the chapel with the particular unhurried certainty of a woman who said what she needed to say and left the rest to settle in its own time. I guess if I can give a little bit of context. This here is our chapel building. Still under construction, obviously, but I don't think I built this during any video, so chapel, for context, the place that Beatrice resides. And Ian. This is wrong. How did I do this? They left the capital. Bleh. They left the capital for the third bell. Now I'm pausing because I'm realizing I've been doing this incorrectly. These are not meant to be too wide. However, it doesn't look bad. It doesn't look incorrect. It's not what they're supposed to look like. I'm gonna have to redo this slightly. They left before the third bell, which meant Perseus was ready before anyone else. Did not let anyone forget it. You could have slept another hour, Adeline said, swinging up into her saddle with far more grace than the early hour deserved. I could have, but I didn't. You never do. Someone has to be the responsible one. Sebastian's the responsible one, Adeline said. You're just the one who wakes up early about it. Perseus didn't have a good answer to that, so he didn't try for one. And the small party set out through the eastern gate as the sky was still more gray than gold. 6 guards, a modest string of pack horses, and the 3 of them at the front, castle shrinking slowly behind them into something that looked, from a distance, almost peaceful. Bastion rode a length behind the other 2 for most of the morning, which no one remarked on. It was simply how Sebastian rode. Adeline caught his eye once, early on, and offered a small, deliberately bright smile, surely to see if she could get a reaction out of him. He got a raised eyebrow. She counted as a victory. They were perhaps 4 hours south of the capital, the road narrowing as the leaves gave way to hedgerows and the first low hills. And they came upon a merchant's wagon pulled crooked to one side of the road, its wheels sunk into a rut, and a man crouched beside it, muttering something uncharitable to the mud. As for the build, I think I'm going to need to figure something out for this little set. I got this. I can copy it from down here. And then up here. And if I copy it from the center, I can go right here with a 3, 2, a paste, I require a recopy. If I was more in the zone, I could figure this out without having to interrupt the reading. But I'm not in the zone enough. I need to actually think about what I'm doing. Otherwise, I'm gonna be not building correctly. Why is there a hole here? Seems correct to me. He looked up at the sound of hooves, and his expression went through several rapid changes in a span of a second. Alarm, calculation, and finally something that broke into a wide, genuinely delighted grin. Well, if it isn't the castle's finest. Oh, I did this too close. Well, if it isn't the castle's finest, the man said, straightening and wiping his hands on his coat, which did very little to clean them. Perseus, and, well, look at that, Sebastian. Simon. Sebastian was already dismounting before the wagon had fully stopped rolling in his mind, and there was none of the warm wearing. Can't speak. There was none of the wariness in it that he'd have shown a stranger. Only the particular ease of a man who'd long since stopped being surprised by how good it felt to run into this. Please tell me this wheel is the worst thing that's happened to you today. It's in the top three, Simon. Simon clasped his offered hand and pulled him into a brief, hard embrace, clapping him twice on the back before letting go. Is it weird that I made this one taller? Go with it. If I dislike it, I'll fix it later. You look terrible. Are you sleeping? You look like a man who isn't sleeping. I sleep fine. You sleep like a man standing guard over his own nightmare. I've told you this before. Simon turned his attention to the wagon, the wheel, and the general injustice of both, though his grin hadn't faded in the slightest. Wheels stuck. Been stuck since before dawn. I'd have walked into the capital for help, but I've got goods in here that don't love being left unattended. Besides, I knew if I waited long enough, someone useful would come rescue me. Didn't think I'd get this lucky about who. What goods? Adeline asked. The lawful kind. Simon's smile didn't waver, which somehow made the answer less convincing rather than more. Mostly. Mostly, Sebastian repeated. Entirely in spirit. Perseus, already dismounting, waved off whatever exchange was about to unfold between them. We'll help with the wheel. We can't spare much time. So much longer. Why did I build it like this? I know exactly why I built it like this, but now looking at it, I regret my choices. Probably if I kept the original castle design, I would not be regretting my choices, but now that I've changed it up, I do. It's okay. I can fix this. It's just a lot more pasting. And then I actually have to fix the bottom so it matches, but Any time is generous time, coming from a knight of the realm, Simon said, brightening considerably now that the assistants appeared to be arriving rather than argument. Where are you three headed, if I might ask? Not that I'm asking. I'm simply the sort of man who likes to know things. Oakwood, Adeline said, before Sebastian could decide whether the question deserved an answer at all. Something in Simon's face shifted at that. Brief, almost too quick to catch. Gone before Perseus could be certain he'd seen it at all. Oakwood, Simon repeated. That's where the wagon caught the mud. Where the story caught you first? You've... Okay, I don't run into this, I think. Well, I clearly do, but, like, not in a I gotta tear down this whole bridge way. I sure hope this is even. I even check. I now have to check. Okay, yes, that's... Yeah. Oh, but wait. That's also a fair point. Is it even in... Yes, okay. No mistakes here. You've heard something, Perseus said. I've heard a great number of things. Comes with the trade. It's got it, let's paste. Yeah, I do. Simon crouched back down beside the wheel, suddenly very interested in it. Heard the roads that way have gotten strange. Heard some folks won't run that route for me anymore. Not for double what I used to pay. He glanced up, and for a moment the easy performance dropped away entirely, leaving something plainer and more tired underneath. I lost a shipment myself, matter of fact. I took down that way 3 weeks back. Never made it where it was going. Never came back either. Just gone. Gone how? Sebastian asked. The teasing had dropped out of his voice entirely now, replaced by something closer to real concern. I did this wrong. Crap. Um, who cares? This is gonna be an awkward version. It's too late now. The fact that I messed this up is putting me off now. Oh, this is also uneven. I will not live with myself now. For I have sinned. I messed this up, and that's it. But it's gonna bug me. If I paste it like, oh wait, if I paste it like this, there's clearly one missing, and there's clearly one missing here too. It goes bam, bam, bam. So it's sadly not even. Means I messed it up somewhere. Gone how? Sebastian asked, and Teasing had dropped out of his voice entirely now, replaced by something closer to real concern. That, Simon said, is the question I've been asking anyone who'll stand still long enough to answer it. Nobody has yet. Three of them exchanged a look. Perseus fainted troubly, Adeline quietly filing the detail away the way she filed most things. Sebastian watching Simon with an attentiveness that had nothing performative in it at all. Whatever else Sebastian doubted about the world, Perseus noted, he clearly didn't doubt about this man. If you hear anything more, Perseus said, send word to the castle. I always send word to the castle, Simon said. Whether the castle listens is an entirely separate matter. He straightened, brushing mud from his knees with no real success. Help me with this wheel, and I'll tell you which villages still have anyone willing to talk about it. Might save you a day of asking around for nothing. It took a better part of 20 minutes and considerably more effort than any of them expected to free the wheel from the rut. Perseus and Adeline worked far side, checking the axle, and for a stretch of it was just Simon and Sebastian crouched together in the mud. Simon directing considerably more than he was lifting. Beatrice said, Beatrice, bleh. Beatrice send anything with you? Simon asked, not pausing his running commentary on the wheel, the mud, and the general unfairness of both long enough to actually wait for an answer. Bandages. Of course she did. That woman has been waiting for me to bleed since the day we met. Purely so she can tell me she told me so. He heaved at the wheel, missed, tried again. You know she still asks about you when you're not around. Constantly. Has Sebastian eaten? Is Sebastian sleeping? Does Sebastian know if he's allowed to say when something's wrong instead of just standing there looking at a wall? Someone for like go. Does Sebastian know he's allowed to say when something's wrong instead of just standing there looking like a wall someone forgot to finish building? He said it all in one breath, barely glancing up. I tell her you're fine. I don't actually know if that's true. Is it true? It's fine. That's not the same word as true. But I'll allow it for now, since I need both hands for this wheel, and only one of them for interrogating you. He wiped his brow, and for just a beat of a stream of talk thinned. He wiped his brow, and for just a beat the stream of talk thinned rather than stopped outright. Whatever you're carrying down there, don't wait till it's unbearable to mention. I'm insufferable, but not unreliable. There's a difference. It matters more than people give it credit for. Baston didn't answer that directly, and Simon, entirely unbothered, was already back to narrating his complaints about the wheel, as though he hadn't said anything worth nothing at all. Simon offered a steady, mostly unhelpful stream of encouragement for the rest of it, and by the time the wagon rolled free, uneven, but better. The sun had climbed higher and the morning's chill had burned off entirely. A pleasure as ever, Simon said, most hauling himself back onto the driver's seat. Try not to become one of the things people tell strange stories about down there. Bad for business, being missed by knights. We'll do our best, Perseus said. Do better than your best, Simon said. And there was, just under the familiar, easy humor of it, something that sounded almost like real concern. That forest taken enough from people who didn't ask for trouble. Would hate to see it collect a few more. He snapped the reins before anyone could answer that, and the wagon creaked off north towards the capital, leaving the three of them standing in the settling dust with considerably more questions than they had an hour before. You two seem close, Adeline said, once the wagon had rounded the bend. We are, Sebastian said, without hesitation, swinging back up into his saddle. No deflection in it, no dry correction, just a plain fact offered plainly. He's not what I expected. Most people expect the wrong thing from Simon. Sebastian watched the empty road a moment longer. In the direction the wagon had gone, something almost unguarded in his face before he caught himself and turned back towards the south. He's the only person I know who's never once pretended to be better than he is. Makes him easier to trust than most people who do. Perseus, listening, filed that away quietly. Not with surprise exactly, but with the particular attention he paid whenever Sebastian let something true slip out, sideways, unplanned. The way most honest things tended to arrive with him. Oops. Let me undo that. How's this looking? I think it's doable. I think this bridge design is fine. Simple. I just need to extend certain parts of it, and then no, on this part. What am I doing? I already have it copied. They rode on, the road narrowing further into hills, the first dark line of oak still hours away on the horizon. Patient and unhurried, the way it had been the whole time they'd been busy deciding on find it. That chapter took me so much longer than I thought it was gonna take because I have been not on my A game with trying to build and read at the same time. I apologize for that. Did a lot better last time, but I guess last time it was a lot more unimportant building, I guess. Now having to actually use the keyboard to do paste, I guess it's taking up more brain power. Weird as that might be. I want to do the other one because I've been trying to get to a particular chapter. And if I'm not mistaken, this chapter here starts us on that journey. Actually, no, it doesn't. Dang, why did I write her so far into this? Point is, I wanted to do this for 2 chapters. It's already going longer than I thought, but I'm gonna stick with it. The edge of the forest. Adeline had always loved the moment the road gave way to the trees. How did I do that? Doing great at building this, ladies and gentlemen. It happened all at once. No matter how many times he made the trip, once ride the world was open fields and hedgerows. How did I do this again? Did I just move too much? Straighten out? I'm gonna walk out the wrong way. Sky wide overhead, and the next the light dimmed and cooled, and the air itself seemed to change temperature. And Oakwood folded in around you like a held breath. He loved that moment since she was a girl sneaking off with a borrowed cloak and a bad excuse, ready for the guards. The first time she'd made it this far without anyone catching her, heart hammering, half from fear of being found out and half from something she hadn't had a name for yet. Some quiet certainty that whatever waited past the tree line mattered more than whatever she was running from. He had found Stephanie that day, or Stephanie found her, and neither of them had ever quite settled which. He loved that Oakwood didn't care who she was. She was waiting for that feeling now. Reins loosened her hands as the party came down the last stretch of open roads towards the tree line. It didn't come. The forest looked the same, as far as she could tell. Same tangled wall of oak and ash, the same uneven line where cultivated land gave up and wilderness began. But something along the way, something about the way the light fell against it felt wrong in a matter she didn't immediately name. She, the way a familiar face looks wrong when it's held a fraction too still. You've gone quiet, Perseus said, riding up beside her. I'm thinking. About? I don't know yet. She kept her eyes to the tree line, trying to place the unease crawling up the back of her neck. It looks the same. It doesn't feel the same. Sebastian, a few lengths behind, said nothing, but she noticed he'd already loosed the strap on his sword. They reached the tree line an hour before dusk, and for a while, at least, it felt like any other night on the road. Hence went up, a fire was coaxed to light, and the guards fell into the low, easy gripping that seemed to accompany every camp Adeline had ever shared with soldiers, regardless of where it was pitched. That rides with the I think that's it for all the boundaries. I think so. Dang, that means I'm gonna actually have to terraform this now. Oh, not gonna be pleasant. I didn't think this through, obviously. Let's just start fixing up any missing spots of the wall. Maybe more of the heavy duty castle interior fixing. I'll leave for a non-storytelling day. Yeah. You'd think a princess would pack better boots, he said, tugging one off by the fire and inspecting a blister with more curiosity than complaint. You'd think a princess would let someone else carry her back, Percy had said, settling across from her. You'd think a knight would stop offering. I won't, though, he said it plainly, without teasing this time. Just so you know, not to keep asking. It wasn't. Let me redo that. I won't, though, he said plainly, without teasing this time. Just so you know, not to keep asking. He looked at him a moment, something almost fond in it. Noted. It was easy, ordinary, the kind of evening that could have belonged to any patrol on any road. For just a little while, none of them reached for anything heavier than that. Adeline dismounted properly a short while later to help with the last of the tent stakes, expecting the forest floor to receive her the way it always did, soft, familiar, faintly alive underfoot. But what she got instead was something closer to silence. Not the comfortable, layered silence of trees settling for the evening, birds finishing their last calls, small things moving unseen through the undergrowth. This was a flatter kind of quiet, the kind that made you aware of your own breathing because it was so little less to hear against. No birds, said a guard named Rowan, young enough that his voice hadn't fully lost its uncertainty. And it wasn't until he said it out loud that Adeline realized that was the exact wrongness she'd been failing to name. Beside him, an older guard named Petra sat to one side, unimpressed. Birds go quiet before storms, too. Don't go building ghost stories out of the weather. It's not going to storm, Owen said. No, Petra admitted, after a moment glancing up at the still's cloudless canopy. It isn't. They'll have moved deeper in, Perseus said, though there was still something careful in the way that he said it. A man offering the reasonable explanation before he'd fully convinced himself of it. Startled by the horses, probably. Maybe. Sebastian had already dismounted and was crouching near the tree line, one hand resting flat against the bark of the nearest oak. He didn't say anything else for a long moment, and Adeline watched his jaw tighten in a particular way it did when he was choosing not to say something out loud. What is it? She asked. Nothing. He straightened, wiping his palm against his thigh as though the bark had left something on it, though she could see nothing there. It's cold. Colder than it should be, this close to the fields. Adeline found herself, for the first time in all her years of slipping away into Oakwood, glad for the fire and the ring of tents, the 6 armed guards keeping careful watch at its edges. She hadn't expected to feel that gladness, and something in her disliked herself faintly for needing it. Sleep did not come easily. She lay listening to the low murmurs of the guards on watch, the crackle of the fire slowly dying, and underneath all of it, this forest's strange, flattened silence, unbroken by owl call or rustling branch or any of the small nighttime business a living wood usually carried on with. Even Stephanie's cabin, when Adeline visited alone, had never been this quiet. Stephanie's oak wood breathed. This felt like something holding still on purpose. He gave up on sleep sometime past midnight and found Perseus already awake, seated near the fire's last ember. Sword across his knees, though there was nothing yet to use it against. "You should be resting," he said, without looking over. "So should you." "I don't sleep well the first night out." He said it plainly, without complaint. The way he said most things about himself that other men might have hidden. Never have. He settled beside him, close enough to share his fire's remaining warmth. "Do you feel it too? Whatever it is? Whatever this is?" Perseus was quiet long enough that she thought he might not answer honestly. And then he said, "Yes," simply, without dressing it up in reassurance the way she half expected him to. "I don't know what it is, but something out here isn't right. I don't think we'll understand it by guessing at it from this edge." Ham said the corruption was further in, near the northern hollow. That's what he said. Perseus turned the sword slightly in his hands, an old unconscious habit. "I keep thinking about the birds." "Because there weren't any?" "Because it means whatever this is, not only infecting the ground." He looked toward the dark tree line, unreadable in the moonless dark, patient and unmoving. Whatever drove them off, it drove all of them off, every last one, quiet enough that we didn't hear it happen. Adeline followed his gaze into the trees, and for the first time since they'd set out from the capital, she let herself feel the full weight of what they were actually riding into. Not an errand, not a curious rumor worth chasing down, but something patient and total that had already reshaped an entire stretch of forest before anyone outside it had even noticed it was happening. We'll find Stephanie tomorrow," she said, as much to herself as to him. "She'll know more than any of us. If she's still there to be found," Perseus said, and then, seeing her face, added more gently, "You will be. Stephanie's harder to lose than most people." Adeline wanted to believe that as easily as he said it. She sat with him a while longer. Instead, watching the embers fade to gray, listening to a forest that refused to make a single sound it didn't have to, until sleep finally took her some time before dawn, uneasy and shallow, the way sleep tends to be in places that have forgotten how to rest. End scene. For additional context, I'm still not sold where the exit to that will be, but obviously my miniature design for Oakwood is basically this little structure here. I'm going to be updating it to an actual full forest over here. So this is technically the path that they will be taking across the river to this forest here. And Simon will be found somewhere small around here. It's technically supposed to be like a couple-hour walk, long enough that by the time they get to this spot, it's nighttime. They're traveling on horse, but I'm also not gonna make these things actually that spread out. So from here to there, gonna be as far as I go. Alright. And Oakwood will be just a mass forest, but it also contains a lived-in city. Not really a city, but like colony? I think colony might be a better word. Maybe not. There will be people living there. Stephanie is not the only one, but she's just the one that is most known by the castle, partially thanks to both the queen and the princess. And so that's why Stephanie is one of the major characters. She's just the clear connecting character between Oakwood and the castle. Because she has a relationship with the princess and the queen. And she considers herself, or they're meant to be the princess's friend. Like, they're similar in age. Yeah. So how she's supposed to also still be friends with the queen because of that? Who cares? I'm not thinking too much into it. Anyways. Yeah, I read the second chapter quicker. Hopefully that's okay. I wish you all a good night, regardless of when you might be watching it, whether it be day or night. For me, it's night. So, I wish you all a good night. And for things to get better. That's all one can truly hope for. So, as I tell myself pretty often, I hope things will get better. Till next time.